Hey, good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm running late today. Here we are in the midst of the COPD, we're going to call it COPD28. And of course, this is this climate change conference. They're calling it COP28. We're going to call it COPD28 because that's what I think the subliminal spiritual message is here. That we're all suffocating ourselves on the verge of COPD, which of course is, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. So this is all suffocation ritual programming. That what we're doing to the planet, you and I, the citizens who are the consumers of everything they create, are to blame for the current state of the climate. They want you constantly thinking about suffocation, drowning, lack of air, and the end of our world, because that is the most basic form of fear that they can instill in people, isn't it? They did the same thing during COVID, fear of suffocation. We saw all the programming in TV shows leading up to COVID and everything that we went through with that whole debacle. And they're continuing that line of thought going into this new climate change push. Now, we're going to get into that today. Lots to cover. We're also going to do a Honey Milk Ranch update, fireside chat, talking about some spiritual things that have come up recently. And we're also going to get into this whole war on people through climate change and the whole agenda. You guys have heard lots and lots about it, but we're going to look at it from a different perspective. We're going to look at it from a spiritual perspective. Now, many of you have already seen a lot of the clips from some of the various speakers. This conference is going on right now. King Charles, John Kerry. I'm not going to really show you those clips today. We're just going to more talk about the spiritual aspects to all of this. Now, from what I've seen, they've turned this whole thing into a religion, haven't they? For many of you that heard King Charles' words, he essentially turned this into a type of spiritual belief system or a religion with his speech. And they're appealing to people's spiritual belief system to save the planet. Now, how insidious is that? How they take God's warning about destroying people who are destroying the earth. It says that in the Bible, that God will destroy those who destroy the earth. And they're now flipping it on its head and repackaging that warning and that message as a mechanism of control. Now, here's the thing about this. It's the controllers that are the ones who have waged war on humanity. By way of scorched earth, by all means necessary. What are they doing? Well, the destruction of habitat. Last time I checked, you and I weren't responsible for destroying habitats. They are the ones clearing forests for greed. They are the ones releasing various bioweapons that destroy nature as a means to an end. They are the ones seeding GMO, unsustainable, bioengineered, dead organics into God's earth that cannot self-replicate and wipe out the natural order of things. They are the hypocrites who fight wars, whose operations pollute to a scale similar to a small country. Here it is right here. Interestingly enough, Watson Institute, Brown University, the cost of war environmentally. Look at this. U.S. Department of Defense is the world's single largest institutional consumer of oil, and as a result, one of the world's top greenhouse gas emitters. Now, I don't believe in all this, but if you were to use their own logic against them, they're hypocrites. 1.2 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases and helicopters, jets, aircraft carriers, you name it, War after war after war, many of which people will admit, most people on both sides of the aisle will admit were unnecessary. Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Ukraine. They are the polluters. Think of the hypocrisy of this. Oh, we can go pick a fight with somebody and pollute until we can't breathe. But you guys are evil. You don't want to believe in climate change or climb on board. They are the ones who favor an international economy that utilizes gross polluting ships across vast oceans. And they favor that economy over local, less polluting economies where people can show up, get on a bike, go get their food, or drive a short distance. Correct? I mean, this isn't rocket science, you guys. This is just basic common sense. But people are so lost in the right-left paradigm, us versus them, left versus right, that we're not even thinking for ourselves anymore. They are the ones who keep telling you to consume and buy more, more, more. Get the latest, the greatest. Get the new iPhone, get the new this, get the new that. Oh, it's time for new clothes. Oh, it's time for new sheets. Oh, it's Christmas. Let's buy everything all over again. And they actually engineer obsolescence into their products year after year after year, so that you feel compelled to get the newest 0.0 product. They are the ones who have commercialized everything, which, through its very definition, creates chains of custody of everything that you buy. Food, and through these chains of custody, there is waste. It is the most wasteful thing you can do, because such a small percentage of what is created ever makes it into the consumer's hands, because there's waste. Now, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how that works, but it's easy to understand that it's a lot better to buy something that was created within 50 or 60 miles of your house than it is to buy something created from another country, put on a ship, goes through a port, goes to a regional distribution center, goes to another regional distribution center, then goes out to a retailer. How many times does it change hands? Every time it does that, somebody is making a profit. And this is why they push international trade, because then people at the top can dip in and take profits. They don't like regional or local trade because it's less profits for other people. Capitalism, commercialism, by its very definition, it creates an inferior product. And it's the opposite of how they tell us the market works, isn't it? Quality doesn't sell anymore. Inferior quality sells. How? By telling you a lie that people believe. Because behind the scenes, they're trying to find a way to increase their profits by removing the quality. But they lie to you and tell you that it's the quality that you're buying. That's the truth about capitalism and commercialism. And yes, we have more options. And some people want that and don't care about what it's doing to our world on so many levels. But to say that we, the consumers, are responsible is hogwash. Because if none of this was created this way, if our economic system was different, we would have a much different world And they wouldn't be blaming us. We're not the problem. It's the people who created the economic system that are the problem. So the world's governments ignore the obvious answers to this fictitious climate change and who is to blame. They ignore that decentralization of corporations back to the hands of the local and regional is really the answer. That's the true answer. Instead, our economy is 80% Chinese. Yes, 80% of your purchases are from China, which is about the most inefficient way that you can run an economy, because a whole lot of other people are getting rich off of you. And all this pollution they're telling us we're responsible for, it's all happening on their end to create this economic system where 80% of our stuff comes from China. They are the gross polluters. Now, many of us have very little choice about the way our economic system is set up, do we? None of us are in power and control. We think we are when we vote for someone, but as we can see, both sides operate the same. One thing you can do to try to make change, or at least live in some kind of, moral foundation of your life, would be to purchase less. Don't be a consumer. Don't be one of those people who has to have this or that, or needs the newest version of something. Well, that would be more of a personal change, because if we have to be honest with ourselves, most people are deceived by consumerism and capitalism. There are those people who want to try everything and do everything and purchase everything, correct? So if you were to make the personal choice to buy and consume less, that would be a personal choice, right? And spiritually, I think that that would have benefits, because that's the example that Jesus gave to us. Sell everything and follow him. Now we'll get into some of the dynamics of Jesus' imperative, because I believe there are two kinds of Christians. There are some that have a higher calling, and they do drop everything and follow him. But not all Christians are cut out for that. And the Bible talks about that. It talks about different paths that you can choose. Some can actually choose to not be married and follow a path of, following him without, the responsibility of also maintaining a marriage. And some are kind of in the middle, But discipleship and apostleship, I think, is a higher calling. Now, if we were to be honest with all this whole climate change conference, much of what we are blamed for is way above our pay grade, all right? They ignore that local and much higher quality lasting products would make an immediate impact on all this junk piling up all around us. Wouldn't it? Higher quality products that are local, that are changing hands less. The chain of custody is less. And the labor that had to be, done to create these products. And any rules that these people at this climate conference are trying to cook up should not be applied to us. Should be applied directly to millionaires and billionaires who make all this stuff, shouldn't it? Putting the power back into the local people to generate food and products within a certain proximity to where we live, instead of shipping these things across vast distances. Now, how could we do that? What would life be like under, if I was president? Well, it would go back to the way it used to be. It would go back to God's plan, where this earth is given to us. It's given to Adam. And then all of a sudden you would have craftsmen. You would have people that take the time to have pride in their work. Furniture, local food grown with real seeds. You would also have people congregated around places where the land could sustain this. See, what they've done is they've decentralized America. People living in places that can't sustain the people that live there. That's not normal. And they dangled this carrot and they said, oh, you can live in a desert. Well, what are you going to eat? Or you can live here or you can live there. And they didn't do it to make us all feel great that we can choose where we want to live. They did it so that they could make money off of it. It's always been about greed. So you'd have local communities living closer to each other would also bring people together, wouldn't it? It would also make people accountable. Their reputations. You know, I live out here and your reputation means something out here. Everybody knows who the troublemakers are. Small community. People choose not to engage with those people. And everybody knows. And there's a level of personal responsibility. There's a level of community responsibility. And that's what our world needs. Not a bunch of rules of control. And not us being blamed for something we didn't do. Now, the people at this conference will not ever give in to this, will they? Because then there wouldn't be millionaires and billionaires anymore shaving money off the top of local economies, would there? There would be a bunch of small businesses or medium-sized businesses, right? And so now you see the truth. Now you see the truth about who is really responsible for ruining the earth, profiting off of all of us to do it. So here we are at COPD28. Look at this logo. Let's take a look at this. They talked about the one world. They are coming right out and saying it. They didn't say one world order, but they said one world. The electric kingdom, in case you had any questions. Windmills generating electricity, solar panels at the top of this logo. And here it almost looks like they're trying to recreate the garden. All the animals, camels. This woman's holding some kind of hawk or bird. This reminds me of what we saw at the Sphere U2 performing in the grand finale of their performance, in which they showed all of creation and the people seemed to be locked under an invisible window, standing in the sphere. Look at this, wind energy all around this thing. Let's count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look what's right in the middle, a volcano. And this looks like there's 2 more windmills up here. That makes 8. So 8 windmills all together. Now, what else is going on? Well, obviously this is the electric kingdom. We're not turning back. Even though lithium mining, which is the energy for the batteries, is one of the most polluting industries on Earth. Now, I looked up this conference here, and check this out. It runs 12 days from November 30th to December 12th, ends on 12/12. So what you have here is 12 days and 12/12. That's 12/12/12, right? Which is 36, or 3 sixes. 666. Now, the other way that you could look at this, 12 days running, ends on 12/12. The other way you could look at this as a pair of 666s, right? So 666666. That's a number that we've been looking at for a long time, haven't we? What could that mean? Well, this is the twinning agenda, the pairing agenda, the Gemini twin agenda. What does that mean? Well, it's pairing you, the person, with this digital entity, the demon on your shoulder, so that they can keep control of you. And it's all going to happen as a result of climate change. Now, they talked also a lot about clean energy at this event here, or they're talking about it now. It's still ongoing. It's taking place in Dubai. You guys, lithium mining is not clean energy. It produces massive amounts of sulfuric acid. It ruins water tables and destroys habitats. Windmills are not clean energy. They need to be maintained. The parts need to be replaced, and the costs to do that are a premium because you've got these massive contraptions in the sky, essentially. And the only way to get access to them is to pay very expensive amounts of money to replace the parts. They also litter the ocean's bottoms with cables and platforms and all kinds of strange contraptions. This is not clean energy. Natural gas is a much cleaner energy because it burns almost completely. It could be mined without ruining habitats and can even be harvested from a garbage pile. You see, the very debate on climate change exposes its corruption. The fact that you're not allowed to disagree with their science tells you everything you need to know. Now, as I read through this article and looked at the news headlines, still, China has not agreed to ditch coal. So, all this is a big bait and switch. It's all do as I say, not as I do, to make us think that China is on board, when really their commitment to all this had no teeth to it. Let's see what's going on with this. China. On 15 November, the United States and China announced an agreement based on negotiations between climate envoys John Kerry and Xi Zhenhu to pursue efforts to triple renewable energy globally by 2030. The agreement included a commitment to addressing greenhouse gases, including warming agents other than carbon dioxide, but was criticized for not including a commitment from China to phase out coal-fired power plants. The agreement was praised as a significant outcome by COPD28 President-designate Sultan Al-Jaber. The conference even attempted to link the health of humanity to climate change. They tried to link the health of humanity to climate change, like your general overall health. What a joke. Let's read. In a letter addressed to Sultan Al-Jaber, the medical community said a complete phase-out of fossil fuels was the only decisive way to deliver health for all. The World Health Organization called on ministers of health to raise their voices for health as the driving force behind climate action, leading by example with climate-friendly healthcare systems and advocating for climate finance that safeguards our well-being today and tomorrow. Now, you can't have a global climate change meeting without marching out the sellout faith leaders. Yes, 28 faith leaders came out. Catholic Church. Now, John Kerry says the U.S. and China are almost half the greenhouse gas emissions in the world. So, they have to make it look like China is at least trying, right? Otherwise, how are they going to get people on board? But this is all ruse. They know that more people are apt to give in if they think China is taking climate seriously. So they're just going to pretend that China is. They're just going to tell you that China's on board, even though I just read to you they're not. So now you see the connection here. Why are we pairing up with a country that we've already said for the last 5 decades has a horrible human rights record? And they kill citizens that don't agree with them? Why are we pairing up with a country to do this with them? Because secretly, this is what America will become. This is what they want for us. They want us to be like China. Now, electric vehicles. The citizens are now saying they don't want them. The dealerships are also now saying they don't want them. They're saying these are the dealerships, 3,882 car dealerships across the country are now wrote a letter to Biden saying that this is all hogwash. I guess they didn't get the Electric Kingdom memo. The memo that says there isn't a choice. You swallow this pill or you cease to exist. But at least they tried. Let's read this. 3,882 car dealers spread across the country are asking that Joe Biden slow down his proposed regulations mandating the production and distribution of electric vehicles. The letter comes after the Biden administration in April proposed a set of stringent climate regulations that could require 2/3 of all new U.S. passenger cars to be all electric by 2032. The EPA proposal would not technically impose a limit on the number of internal combustion engine vehicles a given company could sell. Rather, the EPA through this proposal would limit the pollution created each automaker's fleet. So they're just putting limits on emissions. Now, if you don't think that this will gradually trickle down into your personal life, you're mistaken. Because now they're going after cars. Tomorrow, they're going after fire. You won't be able to light a fire in your yard because that's an emission, right? Pretty soon, they're going to be measuring emissions coming out of your septic field. They'll say there's gas coming out of it. And you need to put in some kind of meter on there to see how much gas is seeping up out of your septic system. And it will go on and on and on until you will have no other choice than to live on and in their grid of control. Now it's the cars. Once they get the cars, they're coming for everything else. Now, this isn't meant to give you fear. It's meant to show you a realistic view of what the next 5 to 10 years is going to look like in America. America is already changing dramatically. I remember even 5 or 10 years ago driving around in California and seeing all these charging stations popping up everywhere. I was in shock. It was like overnight. Almost reminded me of the homeless problem. One year I was at my mom's house. There were no homeless people. And then 5 years later I show up and they're everywhere. And that's kind of like what these charging stations were like in California. Every gas station you stopped at now had charging stations at it. And I was like, the world is changing. This isn't going to be a choice. This will be mandated. All right. Well, check this out. Are you ready for the greatest science fiction movie of all time? It's coming. In just 60 days, we get to see America return to the moon. Have you guys heard about this? Let's read this nonsense. After 50 years, U.S. to return to the moon on January 25th, More than 50 years after the last Apollo mission, the United States will try once again to land a craft on the moon on January 25th. We might have to do a live show if the feed comes in live, just so we can all laugh. I'm almost 100% sure there will not be a 4K camera. For some reason, they're incapable of loading a 4K camera onto these, $1 trillion projects to the moon. Because if there was a 4K camera, then we'd be able to blow stuff up and we'd be able to zoom in on it, right? And find things that are wrong. Like an old Coke can underneath a rock or something, right? They don't want that because they know they can't cover all their bases when they're filming this stuff. So this is going to be funny. We'll see what happens. Oh boy. Going back to the moon. So, ready for this? Are you guys ready for a $500 bonus? I am. Because if we never sent a penny to the Ukraine, every working American would have gotten a $500 bonus. I couldn't believe this. We're up to $75 billion to Ukraine. $75 billion. And with half of Americans being in the workforce, that equates to a $500 bonus that every single American could have received had we not spent that money on that. And if that doesn't give you pause, I don't know what does. None of this was ever voted on. Did they do a vote saying, hey, what do you guys think? Should we do this? No one ever voted on this. So they go on mass polluting with poison, military ordnance, and carbon emissions all over Eastern Europe while they steal our tax money and then lecture us about how we need to get serious about climate change. They can go jump in a lake as far as I'm concerned. Now, obviously there's some cynicism in my voice, and I do that so that you have the tools to call people out on their hypocrisy when you're engaging other people in conversations, so they understand exactly what's going on. Because otherwise, they're interested in a right-left paradigm. The first thing they're going to say is either you support Biden or you don't. Either you love Trump or you don't. But when you pull them out of that and you show them what's really going on, hopefully people will wake up. Good morning, everybody. Now let's get into a little fireside chat at the Honey Milk Ranch. Little oatmeal fireside chat, I guess, today. Nutmeg tastes really good inside of oatmeal. Starting to feel a lot like France here on the Honey Milk Ranch. Kind of feel like I'm in that same space out here alone in the wilderness. Obviously different circumstances, but kind of a return to solitude, I suppose, and appreciation, trying to get into the headspace of appreciation. I got these drapes up. I want to show you guys that. Drapes are up, and like I said, I don't want to pick too dark of a color because I didn't want it to start to feel closed in and caved in here. So it's getting close, almost done. We're going to use this here. As our oatmeal finishes up, and then we'll be ready to rock. Actually, let's grab this. I'm getting real close to possibly canceling my trash service. Pausing myself because you guys saw that gnat zapper, and I figured out that you got to really stick that close to the plants because they're in the soil, the gnats. And gosh, if it even warms up in the 50s, these gnats just keep replicating. So I got the gnat zapper. Let me show that to you because you guys haven't seen one of these before. It's got this blue light which attracts the gnats. That is a really, really good thing to have if you don't want gnats overrunning your house, especially here in the South. This. I'm getting real close to possibly canceling my trash service. I can burn a lot of this stuff, I realized. And I only generate like 2 bags of trash anyway, so I could recycle and then burn. I probably wouldn't have much left, you know. A lot of you asked me to talk a little bit about God today. I mean, we always talk about God, right? But some of you asked me to maybe just focus only on that during some of these fireside chats. I think that's always a good idea. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think about God is God is good all the time, isn't he? It's the darkness in this world that tries to take over. People ask about suffering. Why is there suffering? Why is God allowing all this to happen? This is the subject of many atheists, many people who are agnostic or don't believe in God, don't believe in what they can't see, or have been tainted by how religion has let us down. And I'll be the first to tell you that religion has let me down, but it sent me right into the arms of Jesus. It's just that you got to be able to see the forest from the trees when that happens. That's probably wet, so we just had a pretty big rain here. Sometimes that revelation doesn't come till much later in life, you know? Sometimes we have a bad religious experience, or we grow up with no religious direction, or no spiritual direction, I should say, and it takes us a while to get there. But if I had to say, I would say that God can supernaturally reach anybody to bring him to the Lord. Bring him or her to the Lord. He will reveal himself supernaturally. I'm a firm believer of that. And sometimes in our human brains, we think of things in a very finite way. We don't think of things in a supernatural way of how God could reach people through circumstances, through synchronicities, through supernatural ways. That should be a good fire for today. Let's go get our oatmeal, hang out and talk. I don't know how well I'll be able to talk with a mouthful of oatmeal, but we'll give it a shot. I think that's ready. My oatmeal recipe: cinnamon, honey, brown sugar, milk, butter, nutmeg, and then put it all together.
Whoa.
Let it all fall in love. Oh yeah. Gotta let that butter melt. See the honey? Oh boy, it's gonna be delicious. Wow. I almost had a bowl of cold cereal this morning, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna eat some oatmeal. Let's go sit next to the fire. You know, it's strange how life works, right? What was it, 2018, 2019? Is when I left France. 20, 21, 22, 23. Here we are almost 5 years later. Fix this table up a little bit. Got the blocks positioned. And nice flat surface. Then I realized maybe I should have put the table like right there, right? Probably going to get into this garage build very soon here. Scott is probably going to help me do this garage build. We're going to do it together. Oh, that feels so good. Glad I came out here to do the fireside chat with you guys today. Yeah, so why is there suffering in the world? That's probably the number one question, and this is the thing that talks most people out of believing in God. Okay? Yes, we live in a mathematical reality. Yes, it feels like we're in a simulation or some kind of matrix. But I like to look at this as a courtroom. The enemy has accused God. He is the accuser and the father of the lie. So he's basically put God on trial. And he's using the rules, the galactic rules of the universe, to try to catch God in a, what's that word that they always say?
Legal argument is what I was looking for at this portion.
In a quandary. In some kind of trap. Like a legal trap. But God won't be trapped, will he?
Nutmeg went down the wrong pipe on that.
Because God created everything. Basically, the enemy is trying to use the law of love to challenge God. God, if you love us, you'll allow evil. God, if you love us, you'll allow other people to rule. Right? That might not have our best interests at heart. Or who may want to prey on the weak. Right? Sorry for the slurping, guys. It's just a lot easier to slurp the oatmeal than to use a spoon, I guess. This is, I can't even tell you how good this is. Now the honey that I put in here is local honey from a guy that lives here who gave it to me. We went fishing and he's like, here, have this jar of honey. It's like, oh boy. And it's got a local taste to it. I can't describe it, but it tastes amazing. Wow, that fire's going now, huh? Nutmeg. Tastes delicious. So, never lose hope when things get dark. Have faith. Yes, there's suffering in the world. There's a lot of it. Yes, there is unfairness. The Bible tells us that this is the case. Should be of no surprise. It tells us that the least will be the greatest and the greatest the least. It tells us the devil's roaming around like a lion trying to devour us. it tells us that this is not our world. This is not our life, and we're not supposed to love anything in this world. So none of this is a surprise. It's all been talked about in the Bible. But the hope is the next life. That's where we're supposed to be invested. And trying to live this life so that we represent the kingdom of God and help other people get to the next life, and not essentially start not believing in God. Remember, this is a courtroom. Wow, look at the rings on that. That's beautiful. God already knows he's going to win. But the devil, it's not going to stop him from trying, right? It's not going to stop the devil from trying. He wants to take as many with him as possible. Here's the thing. We already all know that evil exists. Once you figure out that evil exists, then you have to realize that infinite good exists as well. Right? So, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the side of evil? Or do you want to try to be good? You know, there's the debate about once saved, always saved. And I argue that every action that you do is accounted for. We know this because Revelation says in the end the scrolls will be open and everything will kind of be looked at. And the things that we think are, you know, things that might not get someone into heaven might not be the things we think they are, right? Maybe all of this is being weighed in the balances. And yes, you can be saved, but you also have to act like you're saved, right? You can't just go be an evil person or hurt people, be dishonest. Those are all the devil's attributes and working for his kingdom.
Again, apologies for the ASMR slurping, I guess is what this is amounting to, right? I'll be back in the chat with you guys in a minute. I'm almost done talking here.
None of us are perfect, but ultimately God knows your heart. He can see inside of your heart. He can see, not that he's sitting there watching every mistake you make, because we're all sinners in thought, in action. But God knows our heart. He knows what we're trying to do. He knows our struggles. He knows some people have mental disabilities. Some people just simply don't understand how to try to be good. Some people are born with almost like a bad gene, and they have to fight their entire life to try to be good. So God sees through all that, and he accounts for it, correct? But also, you know, he's not going to let people just run rampant and do what they want either. At the end of the day, when we lose our life, we end up saving it in eternity. Now, of course, this will be an ongoing discussion. Faith is a bit of a mystery, isn't it? I know there's a God. I know he's touched me, guided me in my life. For all of you that have been on the journey, you've seen God working in my life. You've also seen when God has required patience of me. Right? He's required a lot of patience. But every time I keep putting him first, that's when he blesses me with the things that I want. If I sit around and start thinking about what I don't have, that's when I feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall. But when I start focusing on just serving him and being good to him and faithful and trying to bless you guys through our work and our channel, that's when God starts to open up things for me. You know? And that's about what I have to say about that. You know, I mean, it's really hard to show somebody that God is with you or that God is in your life and trying to help them to have God in their life. It's kind of difficult sometimes and challenging, because we live in a world of cynicism. We live in a world where nobody knows what's real anymore. But I share so much of my personal life with you guys because I want you to see him working. But then the devil's always there to try to like undermine everything, isn't he? He's always there. But that's where we have to have faith and leave it up to God to convince people, right? We have to leave it up to God to convince people of the truth about all this. And at some point we have to have faith that God will reach people. We can just be little lights in this reality to help steer people. But we can't ever feel like we have to be solely responsible for saving that one person. That's too much to bear, because we're not God. We can reflect God and we can try. We're also in our own struggle, aren't we? We're in our own path. And so all we can do is plant seeds. And that was a tough lesson for me to learn too. You know, you think as one person, when God starts blessing you with truth, that you can save the world, that you can show everybody God's love, that you can convince everybody that God is real and his son is real. But then you run into a wall and you realize that a lot of people have suffered and they haven't found God yet. They've suffered, things have happened to them, and they're not quite sure how God could allow that to happen. But in the end, I have faith, and I truly believe God will reveal himself, and he will reveal his plan, and he will soften the hearts of people who have suffered and help them see him and see the hope in the next life. I truly have faith that that will happen. I love you guys. I'm going to finish this oatmeal so you don't have to listen to me slurp and enjoy this fire. Take care.
All right, so I recorded that yesterday, day before, I can't remember. But I'm back in the chat. Part of this journey I've been on with you guys, I hear a lot of your struggles. And to be honest, it's heavy. It weighs heavy on my heart. You know, I put my email out there and I get a lot of correspondence from you guys. I don't always reply to it or respond to it, just because if I did, if I was literally involved in every single person's life that reached out to me, you would never see me. And I think to myself, gosh, how did Jesus do this? He was amazing. He interacted with every single person that came into his path, and he brought truth, and he did all the things, and it makes you love him even more, right? And so I do what I can. I have my own struggles and my own limitations, and I feel bad. There was a brother who asked me to baptize him. He was willing to drive out here, and I just couldn't make time in all of this to do it. Of course, you know, there's also, you don't know who's coming. You know, it's impossible to get to know every single person. I guess there was a little bit of fear because I didn't know this person, and he was being pretty aggressive about wanting to meet me to be baptized, and he was willing to drive 12 hours. And I said, look, you're probably better off finding someone who is a believer near where you live to baptize you, because the Bible seems to support that as long as it's a like believer, right? And it doesn't mean that believer has to be completely awake. They're on their path and their journey with God.
So, and I felt guilty about that. I was like, man, God, I failed. I fail sometimes. And I wish I could be everywhere at once and reply to every single email that comes into my inbox. I wish I could have complete trust in you that you're going to keep me safe and that even if someone's out to harm me, it's fine, whatever. But, yeah, so that's just a personal story of some of the things that I struggle with. And sometimes it feels like it's almost too much. I mean, as you guys know, we go head to head with the enemy, don't we? And sometimes I struggle to find the energy to keep going, especially out here doing this alone, and I know that God will sustain me. I know that, but I just have to remind myself. And yes, I get a lot of encouragement from you guys. You guys are awesome. A lot of encouragement and support. This is a very, very crazy battle, isn't it? And sometimes I feel like the enemy is almost starting to win in these last days in terms of not our salvation. Obviously, we know where we're going, but the fight. Sometimes I just want to stop and just maybe try to enjoy the rest of my life here and just not fight the enemy. Just hang around my friends who all believe in God and stop looking at this stuff and just keep on going. But I know that the minute that I did that, I wouldn't feel fulfilled because I would know that there's other people out there who haven't been saved yet. I would know that the world is being deceived and people are going down paths of destruction. And I know immediately God would pull me back in. So I say this to encourage you guys because everyone is going through their own struggle. And I'm a human being just like you guys. I know sometimes you think I'm superhuman on some levels because of the amount of decodes we do and the presenting every single day and the amount of dedication that you guys all know that I put into this. But I'm a human being, and I'm on the same walk you are. I'm on the same walk you are. I've just decided to dedicate my whole life to this. But sometimes it becomes almost too much. It just wears on me. And yes, I'm blessed in a lot of ways. And I always want to acknowledge that, what God has done for me in my life. But it's been a long road of faithfulness to even get to this point, So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about today? This is supposed to be a show of encouragement so that you understand that we're all struggling, right? We're all struggling. All of us are going through stuff. And also to give you a very real picture and view of the future of the world and understanding where things are headed going into these last days. So, Melanie asks, are you curious as to whether or not you have to be baptized? Well, I just go by the biblical example and Jesus' edict that he told his disciples was to go and make disciples and baptize them. And I don't want to get into the whole debate of, do you have to be baptized to be saved? Because that's a whole different debate. If you love him, you'll keep his commandments. So I can't imagine why someone would want to try to talk their way out of a simple act. And that's kind of the way I feel about that. So, thank you for that question. What should we do if you live in a 15-minute city that's starting up? Well, obviously there's going to come a point where all the cities are going to be 15-minute cities, right? It's going to be a Logan's Run scenario with domed cities. It's going to be crazy. But hopefully, and my message has been consistent on this from the beginning of the channel. Get out of the cities. It's always been what I've said. And I've tried to, at certain points in my life, follow that, be the example for you guys, which is what I'm doing now. Get around people that are like you. Who wants to live in Sodom and Gomorrah? Who wants to live in Babylon? Who wants to live in places like Las Vegas when you know that you're surrounded by evil and debauchery? I can't imagine the spiritual weight that a person would feel living around all that. I live around people that believe in God, and they say, God bless you, and you get spiritual encouragement when you walk out of the house. You get kindness. Now, a lot of them are still in the right-left paradigm. A lot of them are still Trump believers and things of that nature, but at least you're closer to the target. So that's what would be my recommendation if a 15-minute city, if you find yourself in a 15-minute city. We should all be trying to move towards places that are more aligned with our belief system, correct? We have biblical examples all over of people that left Egypt, left Sodom and Gomorrah, left all these places in the Bible, right? So it's not like this is anything new. This is biblical. So, and I've had people try to tell me, well, I'm here fighting the fight. I'm here to take other people out of Babylon. Oh, well, if you're truly doing that, then hats off to you. But then that's between you and God if that's truly where your heart is and why you're staying in a certain place. Because God knows, you can lie to me or tell me something. I'll take you at your word because I don't know your heart. But in your heart, it's between you and God. Is that the true reason why you're staying? And if that's the truth, then how many people are you reaching? This is about accountability as well, right? And that's not a judgment. It's just the truth, right? That's between you and God. So that's another great question, and thank you for that question. Now, there's a brother that I met. I won't tell you his name just out of privacy, but he's moving out of Las Vegas, moving out here, selling his house. He's doing what he's doing what the Holy Spirit's telling him to do. And so that's awesome, And if it all fails and you have nowhere else to go, absolutely nowhere else to go, then you stay and you pray, right? But understand that your spiritual battle is going to be, different. I've lived in places where I've felt spiritually oppressed by the place that I live. I felt a little bit like that when I lived in Connecticut. And I would share those things. Remember how frustrated I was? Remember when I was in that situation at that UPS store and I got really upset and I started acting out of character and I got rebuked by some of you and I said, you know what, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have did that. But that was the kind of spiritual oppression I felt everywhere I went. Going to a store, spiritual oppression. I don't feel like that out here. You go into a Walmart or you go into a store and everyone's just really kind. I can't explain it to you, but you get spiritual strength out of that. You get spiritual strength out of that when you know people are more God-based. And not everybody's like that. Not all my friends pray before dinner or something, but they live Christ-like in every other way. So, yeah, Cheryl will tell you. Cheryl used to live in Connecticut. They'll tell you what it's like over there compared to here in terms of spiritual growth and being around like-minded people. So, yeah, absolutely. There's people like that everywhere. Every once in a while I'll get a little glitter of some attitude in a person. But it's weird. Even people who I know might not like me, maybe for whatever reason. Who knows? Could be my color. Who knows? Even they're nice. Like they maintain this level of niceness and respect, right? There's old stories about here in the South. When someone breaks down in their car, they don't ask you, what political affiliation you are. They're not going to not help you because you're a certain color. Everybody helps everybody, even if they don't particularly like you for whatever reason. So Cottage Farm says, Try goji berries, cumin, cayenne pepper, and chia seeds to your oatmeal. Oh boy, that would be some spicy oatmeal. uh, all right. Well, what else is going on? Well, we already know about spiritual oppression in places. Again, the Bible tells us there is dark spiritual activity in certain cities. It's all throughout the Bible. Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah. There's many, many more that faced judgment. The entire city faced judgment. There was actually demonic activity going on in some of these places. Not to say there isn't everywhere, but certain places harbor more of these dark spirits than others. All right. What else, you guys? All right. Take care, Mark. Thanks for showing up. Principalities. Yes. That's what I was trying to say. Fighting against principalities. Now, there can be a bit of like mistrust sometimes, and for good reason. There are people out there like literally will do like a setup, like they'll pretend like their car's broken down, then they'll like rob people. I can understand that. But what I can't understand is just rude, condescending behavior to other people, All right. Yeah, a lot of people overdosing. Debbie says a lot of people overdosing. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I think it's a mass culling. It's what I think it is. Maybe that's why God said be sober, because the devil can use, we already know that insobriety is a gateway to dark spiritual activity, right? Even though a lot of us try to ride the line between soberness and, and feeling good, so to speak, which, we all do it, have a beer or two. I do that. But the more you go across over into that spectrum and stay there, this is when you open portals into your life for dark spiritual activity. And so the enemy knows that. And so what's he going to do? He's going to use that portal as permission to kill you. This is why maybe he's being allowed to dose stuff with fentanyl and kill people. There was a guy I used to play basketball with. You guys probably remember him. I think I might have mentioned him a couple times. My neighbor when I was in Connecticut. And he, healthy guy, probably in his 20s, maybe late 20s. And we'd go down to the park and play basketball together. Well, I just found out he overdosed, died, dead, gone. I don't know the details of what happened to him. But he, even when I knew him, he made it clear that he thought doing drugs was okay. And I felt sad for him. I felt sad for him. But also, I'm not going to judge him. But now he's gone. Apparently, he did the wrong drug with the wrong people. And it's over. Yeah, I think I even maybe linked one of his songs or something on the channel. Now later I found out that the subject of the song was kind of dark. Probably some spiritual activity had come through. But yeah, that's what happened to him. So people are dropping out. They're falling out. And so we got to stay on a straight path. See, the devil wants you to think, oh, it's okay. It's your right to feel good. You know what? This life sucks. So the least you can do is party till the wheels fall off. Feel good as long as you can. because it's going to end anyway. This is what the devil tells you. This is what he whispers in your ear, right? And so we believe that. And then we start getting angry at God. We're like, God, the only reason why I have to do this is because I feel like dirt all the time. You know? But then the devil has you. He uses that as a gateway. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Now, fortunately, there is a natural governor on most of our lives where, you just start to feel so bad that you just decide, I don't want to feel like this anymore, right? Prime example, I used to do a lot more drinking than I do now. I just can't, my body can't tolerate it anymore. I don't like having a headache anymore. I don't like feeling nauseous. So I cut it way, way back. And yeah, I do have a couple with my friends, and then I'm done, right? You don't need to drink a whole 6-pack of beer, or you don't need to do 7 shots. It's just, why do it? You're just going to pay for it tomorrow. And most of us learn that lesson by the time we're in our 40s and 50s. Hopefully before it's too late, before you've done too much damage to your body. But the same applies to any substance you put in your body. It could be prescription medications. And again, I tell you this from love, not from judgment. It could be even too much pot. It could be prescription medications. It could be anything. Too many energy drinks. One of my best friends, he's like, dude, I feel like crap all the time. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Because I think it's these energy drinks. Because he was drinking these energy drinks every day, and he finally decided he'd had enough. Sleep it off, get rebalanced. And that's what life's about, isn't it? It's about finding balance. But the devil pulls you out of balance because he gives you little cheats. He gives you little cheats that you think you're getting over and you're getting somewhere. But ultimately, what you need is a life Sabbath. And that's the best way I could describe it. You need a life Sabbath, a rest so you could reset and get back control of your life on whatever level that is, with whatever you're dealing with. So, all right. Awesome. A lot of you are recovering alcoholics. Now, I know a lot of people have done AA, and I know what people have to say about that, some of the occult roots behind it. The main thing about AA that I don't particularly agree with is that they make someone feel as though if you ever touch another drink again, that's the end of you, right? Well, who can live up to that? And maybe that's why people, relapse so badly, because they're like, hey, if I'm going to relapse, I might as well just go all the way. It's a psychological thing, and it kind of goes in the face of biblical teachings. God says when you're saved, you're saved. There isn't some thing hanging over your head, like, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That's not really biblical, right? You're saved and you are renewed. Jesus doesn't count your sins. Once you ask for forgiveness, that sin is erased, right? So it's a little bit different than AA. AA kind of tells you you're always an alcoholic and you can never touch a drink ever again. Now, again, from my perspective, I don't like feeling sick. Some people don't have a sick button. They don't have like an off button. They can drink and drink and drink and drink until they die. I'm not wired like that. If I go over 2, I feel so horrible that I just, don't do it. I don't go over 2. But a lot of people, their body has like some kind of supernatural tolerance to it, and they can drink a whole bottle of vodka and just like be okay. And that's how they end up dying. And that, I guess, is true alcoholism. So, yeah, those are just some thoughts on that. Yeah. Some of you can't tolerate chocolate. Oh boy. That would be a really tough thing to have to deal with. Gosh, I haven't had chocolate in a while though. I just don't go to the store much. Like I said in the Fireside chat, it's starting to feel a lot like France, where I'd go to the corner store like once a month and like almost live off of nothing. So all right, you guys. Well, I love you, and heck, I'll put links to everything in the pinned comment. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do tomorrow, if we're gonna be on or not. But I'll keep you guys posted. I love each and every one of you. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.